Shalom, everyone. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. This week, we have Parsha Behar, which is read in many years with Bechukotai, double portion in here. In essence, we'll be finishing the book of Leviticus, this being read as a double portion here, Behar and Bechukotai. Behar is in the mountain. Bechukotai is in my statutes. So we have a picture here together of what does it mean to be in the mountain? And not just on the mountain. It literally reads in the mountain. Behar means in the mountain. So we have a picture here, Moshe being in the mountain. Well, yes, we could see that. He was, put in the cleft of the rock as Yahweh went before. But then we also have the picture of if Yahweh is our solid rock and our foundation, we are being in him. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is in this portion, we talk a little bit about the year of Jubilee. And it's only one chapter 25 to 25:1 to 26:2, just the first couple of verses, and 26, depending on your translations on what you have. Different translations have chapter and verse breaks differently, okay? But so if you haven't, read this chapter 25, before you go in and do this study. If you can't do that now, then please do it after, okay? You'll get so much more out of it if you read it, then get to the study, all right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the year of Jubilee. Now, the year of Jubilee, of course, we're talking about Yeshua and talking about he came to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. They say this is proclaiming a Jubilee to the people. What does it mean to proclaim Jubilee? And here's the interesting thing, guys. When do we really know when that is? I mean, so there's a lot of things that have been lost over the years. I mean, they knew when the Shabbat is. They could say when the Shemitah years are. The 6th year and then the 7th year, but the counting up to the Jubilee, at what point does that count have up there to the 50th year? And that's kind of been a little lost over the years because of exile and return and all these other things. You can speculate, you can make guesses, but when is it really going to happen? That's why this was such a big deal when Yeshua came and said this, okay? Because this is great news, right? This is an amazing deal because it was never actually observed in the history of Israel, which is heartbreaking, isn't it? Yahweh says, this is what I planned for you. This is what I want you to do, but it never actually happened. Which means there's a prophetic thing that's going on here that's going to be relevant in Yeshua and in our days and in the days to come. That's exciting. Okay. So anyway, getting into this, let's go to Luke chapter 4, verses 16 to 21. So he came to Nazareth where he had been raised. And as his custom was, it's just interesting here just to read that part of it, right? As his custom was, custom's quite a buzzword, guys. Custom, people freak out over the word custom, but custom just means the way something is done. It's just the way you've done it. It's the way your family does it. It's the way you do things. It's just the way you have things custom. Customs are only bad if they contradict Scripture or keep you from doing what Scripture says, okay? Custom in and of itself, you could even say habits, it's just the way you do things. Well, Yeshua puts it this way. As his custom was, he went to the synagogue on Shabbat and he got up to read. So Yeshua was at the synagogue on Shabbat and he participated. All right. So consider that and take for that what you will. Let's keep reading. So when the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him, he unrolled the scroll and found the place where it is written, "The Ruach Adonai is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free the oppressed, and to proclaim the year of Adonai's favor." He closed the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down, and all the eyes of the synagogue were focused on him. And he began to tell them, "Today, the scripture has been fulfilled in your ears." So it's like one of those things where it's not the way we generally see it. When you read and you go and you sit down, then when you sat down, that's when you were getting ready to teach, when you were to do things. That's all you have the picture of, like the people sitting at the feet of their teacher kind of a thing, right? We are sitting here waiting to hear your instruction and hear your voice, right? So he went and he sat down and they're like, what's he going to say? So what did he say? Today, the scripture has been fulfilled in your ears, which, by the way, like I said, he was reading from Isaiah. From where in Isaiah? In chapter 61, verses 1 through 3, talk about what Yeshua was reading. It says, "The Spirit of Adonai Elohim is on me, because Adonai has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, the opening of the prison to those who are bound, to proclaim the year of Adonai's favor and the day of our God's vengeance, to comfort all who mourn, to console those who mourn in Zion, to give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of Adonai, that he might be glorified. So again, if he came to declare this, what does that mean? And how does that break through? Okay, well now with that in the back of our minds, let's go back and take a look at Leviticus 25. So we start off, it says, Adonai says to Moshe on Mount Sinai. So he was in Mount Sinai, right? He spoke, and these are the things that were to be received in faith and then walked out. We receive, we hear the voice, and then we do it. So one of the things that we find here, he talks about the Shemitah years and he talks about the Jubilee years. We're not going to talk so much about the Shemitah years this time around as we're going to talk about some things with the Jubilee. But in essence, the Shemitah years, the 6 years, you work, you plant, you sow, you reap, you do all these things. Then in the 7th year, you forgave debts. Debts were forgiven in the 7th year. All right. So if you owed someone, that was forgiven. That debt was wiped clean. And Yahweh says, you're not planting in the harvest, you're not planting in the fields, you're not preparing the fields, you're not doing these things. So what Yahweh is saying, you have to make the decision before the year gets here that this is what you're going to do. So it's kind of like us, guys. We have to make the decision in our life that we're going to be faithful to Yahweh, not just, well, I'll take it on a case-by-case scenario. You can't do that, okay? You remain faithful to Yahweh. And then when situations come up, then when things arise, you can say, I have put it in my heart, I will be faithful to Yahweh, right? So you have to make that determination. You know, when you get up in the morning, you have to determine, today, I live for Yahweh. And then whatever the day throws at you, you've already made that determination. I live for Yahweh today. It's not like, well, I've got this situation. What should I do? No, you know what you should do. Okay? You live for Yahweh. And so this was, again, a picture of that, a determination. And Yahweh says, if you do that, then he said he would give them a blessing in the harvest that would last them in the 7th year. But not just that, but into the 8th year. See, then they plant in the 8th year because the 7th year finishes. They can't do planting in the 7th year. So they don't plant until the time in the 8th year. Then they have to wait for that harvest. See? So Yahweh says, if you are faithful to do this, if you determine you are going to do this, then I will give you what you need in that time of the 7th year and the 8th year to last you up through that into the 9th year. Wow. So again, it's that decision of, do I follow Yahweh only when it's convenient, or do I follow Yahweh wholeheartedly even if I don't know what the future holds? A lot of people follow Yahweh just to try to feel better about themselves, just to try to use it as well, my sins are forgiven, that's great, but they don't change. They don't live differently. It's like, well, my sins are forgiven, so now then today I'm going to go do what I want to do, and then my sins will be forgiven, then the next day I can do what I want to do, and then the sins are going to be forgiven. No, that's not repentance. Okay, that's not walking in a covenant relationship. Okay, and we cannot use Yahweh as a self-help program. We use him to change you. It's not a matter of, so I can be better so I can get what I want. You serve Yahweh, you don't serve you. You serve him. Thomas Nelson Publishing, in the book Knowing God, puts it this way. Feeling better has become more important than finding God. As a result, many happily camp on biblical ideas that help them feel loved and accepted, but pass over the scriptures that call them the higher ground. It's like we want to have the things that make us feel good, but forget about obedience. Forget about changing, right? Also read this way. Until our passion for finding God is deeper than any other passion, we will arrange our lives according to our taste, not God's. Again, when we surrender to him, it changes who we are. We now live for him. And that's another picture that we see in the Jubilee years. And so let's get into that. What is the Jubilee? All right. Leviticus 25, 8 to 10. We've already had the idea of what a Shabbat, right? The 6 days you work, and the 7th day you cease from your working, you cease from your creating. The Shabbat was a holy convocation, a time of gathering together the people of Yahweh, a time of resting in Him, pursuing the kingdom of Yahweh, not pursuing your own righteousness, your own works, your own things. All these things are put aside, and we're pursuing Yahweh today, right? When the Shemitah years, the 6 years you work, and the 7th year, you stop from that. And all the debts are forgiven. Everything's reset, right? But then we have that cycle of those 7 years being counted for 7 cycles. That's 49 years. And then the 50th year is the Jubilee. Kind of reminiscent of Shavuot, isn't it? Reminiscent of the 49 days you're counting 7 weeks, and then the next day, the 50th day is Shavuot, right? Again, not getting into that, but yeah, pretty interesting. So Leviticus 25, 8 and 10. You are to count 7 Shabbats of years, 7 times 7 years, that is 49 years. Then on the 10th day of the 7th month on Yom Kippur, you are to sound a blast on the shofar. You are to sound the shofar all through your land, and you are to consecrate the 50th year, proclaiming freedom throughout the land to all its inhabitants, and it will be a yovel for you, and you will return everyone to the land he owns, and everyone is to return to his family. Interesting. So on the 49th year, because it would have been a Shemitah years, all debts are forgiven. So what's different about the Jubilee? If all debts are forgiven, how's the Jubilee different? The Jubilee is different because on Yom Kippur, on the sound of the shofar, on Yom Kippur, the sound is shouted, and the shofar is going forth into the land, and it's declaring the Jubilee year, the year of Yovel. And what happens here is all the people who now have had their debts forgiven are returning to the land of Israel. They are returning home. They are going back to the land of their heritage and their inheritance. No matter where they are in the world, they are returning back to the land. They are going back to Israel. Again, we have a picture here of where the Spirit is given. There is liberty and freedom and a return to Yahweh, a return to His promises, a return to the things He has given to us. Another picture, guys, when you talk about the New Jerusalem, and people from all nations, every tribe, every tongue will be gathered to that. That's kind of a picture we have here, isn't it? Of all of Yahweh's people being gathered together and all in one place to worship Him. That is a return to the land, return to the promise, which we also see here, 2 Corinthians 3:17. The Lord is Spirit. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. There is freedom. Yovel is a time of freedom, a time of liberty. Okay, so Leviticus 25:11, the 50th year will be a yovel for you. You will neither sow nor reap what grows of itself. So even the land that is growing of itself, you're not going to go like harvest that. You can take what you need, but you're not going to go like harvest it all at once and store it up. Right? So again, that's another picture of Yahweh making a provision for everyone, provision for whosoever will. It was left of its own. So that which grows of itself, the Hebrew word that's used there is safiach. Safiach is like something that falls off. It's growing of itself. It's ripening, and it's like when the fruit gets really ripe, it'll fall off there. Okay, from the word safach, which means to scrape out, or even to gather together or to cleave. So this idea is it can mean falling off, but it can also mean to be joined to. So, and again, we have a picture here of in that time, in these seasons, it will be all of the people of Israel, all the people that Yahweh has called by His name, being called in together and being joined to Him and each other. Now, also, the Yovel cannot be declared until all tribes can return home. Because all the tribes were to return to their portion and their inheritance in the land that was theirs. Well, if we don't know where the tribes are, we don't know where they are, who's going to return home? Who's going to come back? Who's going to do this? So it could not be pronounced without knowing all 12 tribes. And guys, Yeshua came and He said He came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? He came to call the whosoever will. Well, in that whosoever will are those who were exiled because of idolatry into all the nations. They became assimilated into the world and forgotten who they are. But Yahweh's calling people back. And as He's calling people back, He's also calling the whosoever will. From all nation, every nation, tongue, and tribe to come back in to be a part of this heritage and inheritance that he has given to a covenant people. Leviticus 25:10 says, you are to consecrate the 50th year, proclaiming freedom throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It is a yovel for you, and you will return everyone to the land he owns. Everyone is to return to his family. Everyone. So again, it cannot truly be observed unless the everyone is there. Not just one tribe, all of them. Jeremiah 29:14 says, I will be found by you, declares Yahweh, and I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all the nations and the places where I have driven you, declares Yahweh, and I will bring you back to the place that I sent you into exile. Deuteronomy 30:1-6 says, when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse that I have set before you, and you call them to mind among all the nations where Yahweh your God has driven you, again, being driven into all the nations, and you return to Yahweh your God, you and your children, and obey his voice in all that I command you today with all your heart and with all your soul, then Yahweh your God will restore your fortunes, have mercy on you, gather you again from all the people where Yahweh your God has scattered you. If your outcasts are in the uttermost parts of heaven, from there Yahweh your God will gather you, and from there he will take you. And Yahweh your God will bring you into the land that your fathers possessed, that you may possess it, and he will make you more prosperous and numerous than your fathers. And Yahweh your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring, so that you will love Yahweh your God with all your heart, with all your soul, that you may live. Again, don't we have a picture of this, of Yovel? Isn't Yovel what's being described here? Of all the people from all the nations being brought in and brought to specifically the land of Israel. Again, I see another picture here of the New Jerusalem being given here as well. So it was believed that when the Messiah comes, he will return all the people to the land and declare the Jubilee. You know, when Yeshua came, it's like, are you going to set up your kingdom now? Are you going to set up your throne now? Are you going to restore Israel now? Again, this included all the exiles coming back in and returning home, which interestingly, in the Second Temple era, when Yeshua was here, the people of Israel still considered themselves in exile. Even though they were in the land, the Judah was in the land, but they still considered themselves in exile. Not all the tribes were there, and they could not govern and rule themselves. So they still considered themselves in exile. All right. So Jubilee was to be declared on Yom Kippur. Why? Interesting. Yeshua declared the start of this work when he was in the synagogue and he read Isaiah 61, which we just saw reading from Luke chapter 4, right? So in the Second Temple era, the Jubilee was not observed. They didn't know when to start the counting for the 50th year. They knew the 6 years. They knew what the 7th year means. They never actually did it, but they knew it was there. And but they didn't know when to do this counting to go into the 50th year. So it was not observed while they were in exile, and it was not observed beforehand. Nobody knew when the last one was to declare the next one because it just wasn't done. So the thought is the Messiah will declare the Jubilee. The Messiah, when he comes, will tell us when the Jubilee is, and he will do this, which again, why when Yeshua said this was such a big deal. Okay? It means the Messiah will gather all Israel. The Messiah will declare this word. Messiah will bring all people home. He will return all people from all nations who will follow him, bring them all together and bring them back home, bring them back to the land of Israel, which again, Matthew 15:24, Yeshua says, I was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Romans 11:17-18 talks about you were grafted in, right? And there were branches that were broke off, but these broken off branches can be put back in again. And the wild olive can be grafted into the natural olive tree. Again, we are grafted in. We are brought together as one people in Yahweh. And as such, he's going to have a covenant a place for us as well. Hebrews 9:18-22 says, the first covenant was inaugurated with blood. After Moshe proclaimed every command of the Torah to the people, he took the blood of the calf, some water, to use the scarlet wool hyssop to sprinkle the scroll itself and all the people. Guys, this is in Exodus 24, okay? And he says, this is the blood of the covenant which God has ordained for you. And likewise, he sprinkled the blood, the tent, and all the things used in its ceremonies. In fact, according to the Torah, almost everything is purified with blood. Indeed, Without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sins. This is real interesting. Where it says there is no forgiveness of sins, that word forgiveness is aphesis. Okay? Now, in the Greek, that's what we're looking at. But the Septuagint would render this word from Yovel. Yovel is the Hebrew word for Jubilee. So what we're looking here, as we can read Hebrews 9, without the shedding of blood, there is no Jubilee. Why? Guys, what happened on Yom Kippur? Which is what we're talking about in Hebrews, right? The Yom Kippur service and our high priest, Yeshua, who made that atonement for us. So without Yom Kippur, there cannot be a Jubilee. Without the atonement that Yahweh gives for us, there cannot be the Jubilee that is provided for us as well. We have to have that Jubilee. We have to have that Yom Kippur to come together and be brought together. So without atonement, there is no Yovel. Without atonement, the Jubilee can't happen. Okay, now let's go to Leviticus 25, 47 to 55. If a stranger or a sojourner with you becomes rich and your brother beside him becomes poor and sells himself to the stranger or sojourner with you or to a member of the stranger's clan, that after he is sold he may be redeemed, one of his brothers may redeem him, or his uncle or his cousin may redeem him, or a close relative from his clan may redeem him, or if he grows rich, he may redeem himself. He shall calculate with the buyer from the year when he sold himself to him until the year of Jubilee, and the price of his sale shall vary with the number of years. The time he was with his owner shall be rated as the time of a hired servant. If there are many years left, he shall pay proportionately for his redemption some of his sale price. If there remain but a few years until the year of Jubilee, he shall calculate and pay for his redemption in proportion to his years of service. Again, understand, guys, someone who sold themselves to pay off a debt, or who put themselves into servitude to pay off a debt or to do these things, in the time of Jubilee, when the Jubilee came, they were forgiven as well, and they were set free. That redemption price was paid for them in that. Verse 53, he shall treat him as a hired servant year by year. He shall not rule ruthlessly over him in your sight. And if he is not redeemed by this means, and he and his children, he shall be redeemed or released in the year of Jubilee. Now, we have here a picture of a kinsman redeemer, a person who can redeem someone who was sold themselves into servitude, someone who owed a debt they could not pay. The kinsman redeemer was to come and pay that price for you. Okay, so in this, we have a picture of the Jubilee and a picture of the story of Ruth. Let's take a look at it. So what's the deal with Ruth? We have Elimelech and Naomi, all right? And then there was a famine in the land in Israel. So Elimelech took his family to the fields of Moab. There, his sons married Moabites. Elimelech and his sons, they died. Naomi heard that Yahweh had visited Israel and had given them food. So she took her 2 daughters-in-law, and he told them, return to their families, maybe they can find another husband. Orpah went. Ruth stayed with Naomi. So Naomi and Ruth went back to Israel. So Ruth 1, verse 22, says, Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law with her, who returned from the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. When is the barley harvest? That's around Pesach, okay, April-ish, okay? It's the beginning of the barley harvest. That's the omer that was waved was the barley. So then Ruth went to go glean the edges of the field. Well, how could she go glean from somebody else's field? It's not her field. Because in the regulations for Shavuot, we learn when you gather in the harvest, in Leviticus 23:22, you don't glean the corners of your field so that the stranger or the poor, the orphan, the widow, whatever, can go in and get from that harvest. Okay, there's a provision for the poor who don't have any other means, and this is done by the people being faithful to Yahweh. All right, so Ruth 2:3. So she set out and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech. Why is that important? Boaz from the clan of Elimelech, that would be Naomi's husband. They were of the same tribe. In other words, he was in a position to be a kinsman redeemer, to be a redeemer for them. So Boaz didn't know this. Boaz asked, hey, who's that woman? And then they told her, and he approached, right? So Ruth 2, 8-11. So Boaz says to Ruth, now listen, my daughter, do not go to glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they are reaping, and go after them. Have I not charged the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, why have I found favor in your eyes? You should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner. But Boaz answered her, all you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told me, and how you left your father and mother in your native land to come to a people that you did not know before. And again, he's saying he is in the same family. Okay, he's like a redeemer for them. He is in the same family, so he wants to make sure she's taken care of, right? So then Boaz invites Ruth to come and eat with them. He told his young men, so when you glean, leave a little extra in that part, right? And then tells her, follow after the men when they're reaping. That way you can gather up a nice fresh bundle. You know, you can get that and you can go and you glean. And then she gathers and then she goes back to Naomi. Okay, so Ruth 2, 19 and 20. So after her mother-in-law said to her, where did you glean today? And where have you worked? Blessed be the man who took notice of you. So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked and said, the man's name with whom I work today is Boaz. And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, may he be blessed by Yahweh, whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead. Naomi said to her, the man is a close relative of ours, one of our redeemers. We have a picture of that in like the Jubilee years about someone who is a redeemer for the people of Israel, to make provision for the people of Israel, to help give them what they need. And someone who couldn't do for themselves, a redeemer, could help make sure that they were taken care of. Ruth 3, 10-13. And he said, blessed be of you, Jehovah, my daughter, for you have dealt more kindly at the latter end than the beginning, not to go after the young men, either poor or rich. Now, my daughter, do not fear. All that you say I will do to you. For the gate of my people know that you are an able woman. And now, surely it is true that I am a kinsman redeemer, but there is also a redeemer nearer than I. So stay tonight, and it shall be in the morning. And if he will not redeem you, well, or if he will redeem you, well, he will redeem. And if he does not delight to redeem you, as Yahweh lives, then I will redeem you. So lie down till the morning. So Boaz went to the gate, waited for his brother, and then Boaz asked him if he would redeem or purchase his brother's field. This would benefit Naomi, right? Well, he said he would. Why? This is like a business transaction. Will you purchase your brother's field? You know, it's because he left and everything they sold. Now they're coming back. What has he got? Can you purchase this field? Can you redeem it for him? And it's a business transaction. Oh, I stand to make some money on this. Yeah, sure, I can do that. But then he says, and the deal comes with Ruth. Well, what? Well, here's the thing too, guys. A redeemer was to raise up a name for his brother so that his brother's family can continue. It's not just about my legacy, it's about my brother's legacy. That's why it was given that way, okay? So he said, nope, that's too much for me. You can do it. And that's what happened. And then understand, an act of redemption gave birth to the king of Israel. Isn't that beautiful? Ruth 4:13-17. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife, and he went into her, and Yahweh gave her conception, and she bore a son. And the woman said to Naomi, blessed be Yahweh, who has not left you this day without a redeemer, and may his name be called in Israel. And may he be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age, for your daughter-in-law who loves you has borne him, who is better to you than 7 sons. And Naomi took the child and laid her in her bosom and became a nurse to him. Verse 17. And the neighboring women gave him a name, saying, this is a son born to Naomi, and they called him Oved. Oved is the father of Jesse, the father of David. An act of redemption gave birth to the king of Israel. And then, David in the lineage of the Messiah. What a beautiful, amazing thing, right? Okay, so when Israel was brought out of Mitzrayim, Yahweh says this was an act of redemption. Exodus 6, verses 6-8, he's saying he redeems his people. He takes them out, brings them to himself. We have 4 different expressions of how they are being redeemed here. Go back and take a look at it. Go back and read it. Okay? He says, I will take you from the people. I will bring you out. I will deliver you from slavery, redeem you with an outstretched arm, acts of judgment, take you to be my people. I will be your God. All this coming together, and then bring you out of the land I swore, or bring you into the land I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. I am Yahweh. All this coming in together, acts of redemption, and the process being involved here. So in other words, Yahweh is your Redeemer. And we know, guys, Yeshua is our Redeemer. Yahweh, Yeshua, they are one. Right? Yeshua said, I and the Father are one. Job 19:25 says, I know my Redeemer lives, and that he will stand in the latter day upon the earth. Guys, literally, and he will stand in the last day upon the earth. My Redeemer lives. Yahweh is your Redeemer. 1 Peter 2:5-7 says, you also as living stones are being built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Yeshua. Because of this, it is also contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion an elect precious stone, a corner foundation. When believing in him will not in any way be ashamed. Quoting from Isaiah 28:16. And then to you who believe, he belongs the preciousness. But in disobeying ones, he is the stone which the building rejected. This one became the head of the corner. That's quoting from Psalm 118. Okay, Isaiah 48:17-19. Thus says Yahweh, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am Yahweh your God, who teaches you to profit, who leads you in the way you should go. Oh, that you had paid attention to my commandments. Then your peace would have been like a river, and your righteousness like the waves of the sea. Your offspring would have been like the sand, and your descendants like its grains. Their name would never be cut off or destroyed from before me. See that? Yahweh says, I am your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I teach you. And he says, oh, that you had paid attention to my commandments. As our Redeemer, he desires for us to pay attention to his word and to walk in his ways. When he redeems us, we are his. Guys, when Yeshua redeems you, you are his. John 8:34-36. Yeshua says, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone practicing sin is a servant of sin. But the servant does not remain in the house forever. The Son remains forever. Therefore, if the Son sets you free, you are free indeed. So if we come to him, we give ourselves to him, we are considered bondservants. We no longer live for ourselves, we live for him. We don't live for the ways of the carnal nature, the ways of sin and death. We live for him and his ways. Romans 6:16-19 puts it this way. He calls himself a bondservant, right? Do you not know that if you present yourselves to anyone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of the one whom you obey, either of sin, which leads to death, or of obedience, which leads to righteousness. But thanks be to God that you who were once slaves of sin have become obedient from the heart to the standard of teaching to which you were committed. And having been set free from sin, you have become slaves of righteousness. I am speaking in human terms because of your natural limitations. For just as you once presented your members as slaves to impurity and to lawlessness, leading to more lawlessness, so now present your members as slaves to righteousness, leading to sanctification. As he redeems us, we are his. We are free. And now we submit ourselves to him so that we live in the way that he says. Which we go back into Leviticus 25:47-55. The emphasis here on verse 55. For to me the people of Israel are servants. They are my servants, who I brought out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your God. Yahweh is saying, I set you free. I redeemed you. And as such, you serve me. I am Yahweh your God. Matthew 22:36-40. Yeshua was approached and he said, which is the greatest commandment in the Torah? And he says, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The entire Torah and the prophets hang on these two commandments. That's what we're looking at. To pursue the heart of the Father is to love him, which means we're going to love one another as well. All of the Torah, everything in the Torah, falls under one of these two categories. Even serving Yahweh is an act of love. If we love him, it's going to change how we do things. It's going to change how we see things. If we love him, we're going to love one another as well. and we're going to pursue him together. A lot to be said in there, guys. More can be said. It's just one chapter, but it's packed full of a lot of stuff, right? Okay, well, that's all we have for us today. So until next time, I pray this has been a blessing to you. I pray this has encouraged you, challenged you. And if this has, then please share it. And guys, on whatever avenue you watch or you listen, please share these to help get them out there. If it's blessed you, it's going to bless somebody else too, right? So help us in that. And if this has been a blessing to you, then please consider making a donation to help us continue putting them out there. We can only do that because you help us to do that. So if these have blessed you, help us keep it going, okay? And until next time, guys, be blessed, be a blessing, and shalom.